Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Straightforward topic, let's do it. Where's a place where you always feel bad energy? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I toured Dachau in 1992. It was a great place. The rest of that trip I remember in vivid color, but my memories of Dachau are all in black and white. I had this customer who kept asking me back to work in her house, HVAC. The first time I went, she opened the basement door and I went down. Old basement, old part of the townhouse. I took a peek around this room, had a bunch of old mason jars with something in them. Definitely a bad energy, like something happened there. You get that feeling you just know, you know? Anyways, when I shut that basement door, I noticed it had a cross on it. The owner wouldn't go down there and never opened the door. After the second time, I asked my boss to blacklist me from the house. Something just wasn't right. There's a house in the street behind mine. When I bought my house 3 years ago, that house had the most beautiful front yard garden. Gorgeous, hand-built, raised beds full of all manner of veggies and flowers year-round. My street has a lot of gardeners, myself included, and this yard was always a hot topic. They always grew interesting things. Red curry squash, all manner of greens, yard-long beans, etc. About a year ago, someone else bought that house. They neglected the entire front yard. They broke up the beds and have left the wood with nails akimbo to rot. Now it's waist-high with weeds and the rest is dead grass. My dog hates this yard. He hates the vibes of this yard. On walks, he crosses the street just to get this yard so he can stand in front of it and bark at the sky. This house is cursed to him. The vibes are terrible. When you go into a restaurant on a Saturday night and it's totally empty, the owner is sitting at the bar nervously because he knows the place is going under, and the waitstaff don't give an F because they know they will be looking for work soon. Any medical setting, it's totally irrational, and I know these are necessary places that do wonderful work, but I feel off kilter and creeped out in them, especially hospitals. Ugh. There's this absolutely gorgeous woodsy park near my old house. The trees are almost magical to look at, and the park management spent a lot of time and energy to make some great pathways and boardwalks throughout the area. But I've never had a good feeling there. No matter how beautiful it is, it's super weird to say that, but if you go there, you'll know what I'm feeling. It has a weird darkness to it, like something really terrible happened there. There's a large open grassy field across from the parking lot that supposedly was an old makeshift hospital for the soldiers in the Civil War. Maybe that's where the feeling comes from. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if there was a Civil War battle, if, a lot of people died, I'm sure there could be some type of, energy that we don't understand that could just permeate in an area. Why not? There's a house I used to live in, opposite a preschool in their car park, which backed into a small park. Every so often, for no apparent reason whatsoever, it would be what one of the neighbors called a dark night. It could be as clear as glass, full moon, streetlights, all working, but it would just feel dark and creepy and unsafe. A lot of people that lived around that park felt it. I hated my childhood home's basement. It scared the shit out of me. I don't know what was down there, but literally, even at 15 or 16, if I had to turn the lights off, it'd sprint upstairs. I'd also avoid going there at all costs. One day after my mom sold and moved, my older brother, in his 30s unprompted, told me he hated the basement and he believed there was a portal to hell down there. That was insane to me because I thought I'd instilled my own fear. West Baltimore. I lived there for a bit in 2012. I went walking around my neighborhood and took a few turns I hadn't before to end up in a place that was totally dead. The buildings were empty with no doors or windows, and there were no people or signs of life except a few rats. I made it back to my apartment without issue, but never consciously tried to find that area again. My own block felt fine, even though a man was shot in front of my building. There's a liquor store that I actively avoid going to because its parking lot seethes with evil vibes. It's just something about the way it's laid out, too out of the way. Too far from the street, too invisible, too plain. I can't help but imagine someone getting their knee kicked out and a gun put to the back of their head. Same feeling as looking at an electric chair. Back when I used to do night security, it was the 11th floor of the office tower I patrolled. The moment I stepped out of the stairwell, it felt like I was being watched. Sometimes I heard what sounded like whispering on different parts of the floor. At first I thought someone had left a radio on at their desk, but I never could find the source of the noise. Every other floor in the building, 29 stories, was fine. It was just this one. My middle school gave off strong, liminal space vibes. Surrounding the school are empty, just trees and odd architectures, completely silent. Lots of uncanny corners. Might be because there weren't many students back then. Thought it was weird, but now I adore the vibe so much, lol. Volcanoes. Visited Crater Lake once. Couldn't last more than about half an hour. I climbed Shasta toward the summit. There's a pool that connects to a lava tube, so it stays a little warm year-round. Very creepy energy. Walmart. The last time I went to a Walmart and didn't feel like something was wrong was 2002, when my dad bought me a greatest hits copy of Final Fantasy Tactics. Pretty much every time since then, Walmart just gives me bad vibes. Oddly enough, not Walmart Neighborhood Market though. I go to one of those since it's my closest grocery store, a 5-minute walk, and it's decent quality. I can get better quality at another store, not within walking distance, but I appreciate not needing to drive a car for errands. Here's a fun fact about your narrator. I've been in 2 Walmarts in my life. I went to one on a road trip in Maine in 2014, and then one near my area. I'll never go back. I have reasons. I stayed in Edinburgh for a week back a few years. Did all the usual tours of supposedly haunted locations, Edinburgh vaults, Greyfriars Kirkyard, and the locked Covenanters prison, Mary King's close. But the place that gave me the absolute fear was the toilets in an old pub just off the Royal Mile. I felt absolutely terrified and couldn't get out fast enough. No clue why, just an absolutely awful feeling. Bit of a long post, but I'm generally scared of big cities. I know danger is everywhere, so it may be my social anxiety. There was a time I was visiting Los Angeles, and I really liked the melancholy feeling of walking around at night, breathing the air, looking at the streetlights, and just walking and thinking there was a person about 20 feet in front of me on the same sidewalk. Was hard to see what they were doing really. A couple of minutes later, I noticed they were about 10 feet from me, so their pace was slowing down. Me being awkward, I didn't know whether to slow down mine too or get a little faster and pass them, so I just started walking a bit faster to try to pass them. In hindsight, it wasn't a good idea. When I was right beside them moving on, they stopped me and asked, "Do you know the nearest grocery store?" Me not from LA, I had no clue. I told them I wasn't from here, but I think there's some kind of market a couple blocks down. They said great, and thank you. I thought that was the end of that, so I kept walking. Then they said, "Hey." I turned around and they asked, "Can I have about 350?" It was then I realized it wasn't a person at all. It was a 7-story tall crustacean from the Paleolithic era. I said, "You ain't 'bout get no tree fitty," and stormed off. Messed up my peaceful night. There's a house that I had to go to for work. It's buried up in the woods down a gravel road. Grass is overgrown past my knees, weeds, garbage all over the porch and sidewalk or in the grass, half-eaten food, rotting fruit, half-empty drinks, no bags. It's just all thrown indiscriminately outside all over the place, roasting in the July sun. I fought the urge to vomit, and writing this makes me want to gag. The entire time I was there, I felt like I was being watched and couldn't see anything. I came back in autumn when the leaves had fallen and could see the house through the woods just barely, and I felt a wave of dread. There's something off about it. The air is thick, and not just with the rot and garbage. They say fire purifies, and if that's the case, I'd like to burn it to the ground and scorch the land. I'd also like to forget it exists. I lived a mile and a half from it years ago, and knowing this shared the woods with me always makes me alarmed. Also, the Bible Belt as a region creeps me out. All the churches talk of God, love, life, and that bullshit veneer of Southern hospitality puts me on edge. A majority of them are a gossiping, shit-stirring, lying-cheating, cowardly, traitorous buffet of backstabbing assholes that turn their lives around everyone near them into a shit show of a Jerry Springer episode to make their existence more interesting and a decent reminder Sherman didn't go far enough. My ex used to be Mormon, and he said the temple, not their regular churches, but the official temple, it's hard to explain this succinctly, but you can only go in with endorsement from a bishop, and they do special, secret, Mormon-y things there. They always gave him bad vibes. His mom said the same thing, and apparently enough other Mormons who had been inside felt that way the leaders had a script ready for it. The mental health ward. Just a place full of people suffering. As a patient, the feeling was crushing. I was the youngest person there, and I remember lying in my bed, staring at the roof, hearing screaming and banging from other patients. Even when it actually was quiet, the air is still thick with sadness and misery. Additionally, like a few other users have said, any medical setting, the vibe is just off. Los Alamos, New Mexico. It's a town the military built for the Manhattan Project, and it has a strange vibe. Sometimes I go camping in the area and need supplies, and I get in and out within an hour. There's a monument in Bennington, Vermont, which resembles a darker colored version of the Washington Monument. Went there at night, and the spotlights were off. Huge, imposing things seem to be giving off negative energy. During the day, it's fine. When I take my dog to the vet, I usually walk her on the leash for a couple of minutes. Around back are some shed-type things, which I assume store the anesthetized animals. I don't go back there anymore. I'm convinced something pretty effed happened in the house I'm in. One room in particular felt, and after I felt it, I found out later that when the walls were being renovated, they found writing on the walls from children who lived here before that said there was a darkness here. I get to sleep in this room every night. I had unimaginable, terrible dreams in here. If I ever got the chance, I would burn this room to the ground.